Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and exciting news that we got for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak that's set to release on both the Nintendo Switch and on PC on June 30th. And today we're going to be checking out a bunch of brand new gameplay that we got Capcom to drop on us. Basically, this is coming from their kind of like ongoing series with Yuki Yamada, I believe he's called. He's a Japanese actor, voice actor, if you will, that he's kind of been doing these videos for Capcom as they kind of showcase more information regarding Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. And pretty much right away, we're going to jump right into it because you might be seeing the gameplay already. Basically, they're kind of like just showcasing the Citadel and like the things you're going to be able to do as you kind of begin to explore it. And pretty much right away, they kind of start out at the starting area. Remember, this is the southern point of the map, one of the south points of the map. They kind of showcase the tent. This is the across the river kind of thing, the pillar that I spoke about in one of the map videos that I made a couple of weeks ago, where I kind of like broke down the entire map. So you're going to be able to see basically a ton of that as well. You're going to see that the hunter is wearing Lunagaron armor. You're also going to notice that the hunter has both Lunagaron, Palico, and Palamute. They're all decked out in that gear, so you're going to see that as well. You're also going to be able to see that pretty much the starting area, basically as you make your way out of the tent where the ship is at, and kind of like the water where you're going to be docking in, making your way out of, kind of has like this little like locked off area, so monsters are not going to be able to make their way to you. You're going to be pretty safe there as well. And the hunter is using the dual blades, the one that a lot of people thought were like Gore Magalas and stuff. That is not the case. This is just Lunagaron dual blades, as kind of expected. We also get a closer look at the outside area of pretty much the Citadel right out after you get out, kind of like from the starting area. You get to see the herbivores, kind of like that big puffy-tailed one or whatever that we still don't necessarily know the name of, unless they actually showcase it here in Japanese, which I probably missed it. But other than that, we certainly get to see them kind of like walking around. They're big and puffy and brown and black, kind of like really interesting and weird. But at the end of the day, not that big of a deal. We've seen that already, especially in the clip that I put out a couple of days ago, where we got to see that as well. We also got a closer look at the castle from the outside as they kind of make slowly their way in. They take a pretty decent chunk of time kind of like discussing the surroundings of the castle area as well, and kind of like some of the ideas that they pretty much wanted to showcase as well. You will also notice that this is running on the Nintendo Switch because they have it docked right there, and they're also holding kind of like the controls in hand. You also see plenty of pop-in textures as you kind of like walk yourself towards into like, you know, the Citadel, like kind of like the castle area. You see the popping kind of happen as well. This happens in the Nintendo Switch. This does not happen in the PC build, so that is one of the things that I wanted to point out. They also showcased the gold wire bug. This is the one that is one of the two boosted ones. You have the ruby and the gold wire bugs. You can pick up the ruby if you want to be able to do like extra like damage whenever you are mounting a monster. You pick up the gold one if you want the monster to be able to drop you more materials as well. So that is a benefit to that as well. Now, one of the coolest things that we do get to see here specifically is that we get to see inside the cathedral, inside the Citadel. We've seen short clips of this, like parsed up like images. There's an image of Malzeno fighting, which we have not seen in actual gameplay. They don't show it here, I don't think, as well. But we have seen one specific image of inside the Citadel, inside the cathedral. Now we actually get to see the full thing. It is in the daytime, so it's not, or purpley. We do get to see these like purpley branches kind of looking thing, and we get to see like the center of the cathedral glowing red. Now this is a really important section, I think, in the video, because even when he kind of like asked the director, I believe is for the game, they kind of just say, I can't really talk about it. They kind of are still being very extremely vague about like, I can't really tell you that's part of the main story. We can't get into that. So then they quickly cut away into this part of like him kind of like wall climbing around like the outside of the area and the frozen side of the Citadel. So we don't necessarily get to see the details regarding specifically as to what the hell is going on with that red glow. But we also are going to see later in the clip as well the purple glowing area as well, which is something that I spoke about when it comes to, I believe, a Silkbind attack. I made a video about that just yesterday where we kind of talked about how there are a couple of other areas as well in the game that are definitely like lore related, but we don't necessarily know all the details when it comes to that, even because Capcom doesn't necessarily want to talk about that as well either. We also get a couple of shots of the Citadel's frozen kind of like section. This will be the northern side of the map. We get to see that, you know, there's Remobrus and stuff flying around. kind of expected. We do get to see the ruby wire bug as well. Like I mentioned before, that is the one that I believe you pick up, and whenever you mount a monster, you are going to be able to do, like, you know, extra damage whenever you do a finisher attack. We also get to see the goblins. Now, this is a name that a lot of people have kind of put up to these monsters as well. We don't necessarily know. These are like presumably the pack hunters kind of like area or whatever, but we don't necessarily know their official names just yet, but people have been calling them the goblins. And then they cut over to the purpley glow area. I believe this is where they fight Garangolm in this specific clip, but we know Garangolm can kind of like fight in different spots, and we do get to see a couple of interesting sections that I believe people need to kind of digest as they kind of go over, because the sap covered area at night gets really purpley, really glowy, and there's something going on with those trees. We don't necessarily know the full details as to why that is. It's kind of like the temple at the cathedral. We don't necessarily know what that ultimately could be, what that could ultimately mean, but there's definitely a lot of lore related stuff there. We also get to see kind of like them make their way back to the center of the fort, pretty much the starting area, from the left side of the map. So you come out like exactly how I mentioned at the beginning of like one of the videos that I covered when I spoke about the map. You come out of the pretty much like the tent. You make your way forward. To the right side, you have the castle. To the left side, you have the swampy area with the sap, and where you fight Garangolm, you have the forest area. And then if you make your way forward, either through the citadel or the left side of the swampy area and the forest area, you're going to end up on the north side of the map, and this is where you're going to be fighting Lunagaron and stuff like that. So pretty much the map that I kind of broke down originally is 100% accurate, because they kind of just showcased it here. One of the things that I do want to speak about specifically is like the glowing area side behind the mountains in the citadel. That's kind of like something that we have not seen before. That is unexplained. We don't know what that actually means. It could actually be the sun setting, but you know, ultimately we've not seen that before as well. So that is interesting for sure. Then they do cut away ultimately to a couple of hunting areas. I believe they do end up fighting Garangolm, and a couple of short clips of Lunagaron as well. So we should be able to see that as well. I'm going to try to edit this out as best as possible so you can see exactly what they do, but they kind of like ride around in the areas as well, again in the daytime, so where it's not necessarily as glowy, but it eventually kind of transitions to that fog effect. You do get to see that as well, and eventually they just end up fighting Garangolm a little bit. He is going to be one of those bruiser monsters based off of some of the gameplay clips that we have seen from him already. He starts out his attack with the right paw, right front paw. Then he kind of does that big boulder pickup. He picks up a big boulder, kind of chucks it forward. He turns around and then begins kind of like growling, picking up another chunk, and rushing himself forward, head down, just trying to tackle you directly through basically through the ground, and you know, try to do his best to kind of like put you into the floor, because he's very good at that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they kind of edit the fight around a little bit. A lot of wire bug jumping, you know, kind of just running around and avoiding it. They do showcase the Silkbind attack for the dual blades, where they kind of basically just do the spinny attack kind of a thing. They dash forward, they wire themselves forward into the monster, and they do a spinny attack, kind of like a drill, if you will, to the right side of the monster basically, and they kind of do this like entirely dash forward kind of attack. It's interesting. We don't necessarily know how many Silkbind attacks it will take, but you know, it is what it is. They do eventually transition to the area that I mentioned with the tree. There's a couple of clips here that I'm gonna definitely try to edit and slow down a little bit, but we get to see that glowing tree, which is the big question here. That tree specifically tied, and there's like a purpley glow around that area as well. They're fighting Garangolm. That's cool and all. I'm more interested in what the hell is going on with that tree. I spoke about that in the other video, and that to me is specifically tied to the temple area in the citadel. Like, what the hell is going on in that place? What was that red glow about? This is that purple glow. It's tied to that, but again, they don't want to specifically talk about it. So to me, it looks interesting. It completely looks out of place. It looks like it doesn't belong there, you know. So to me, it's one of those things like, is it connected to Malzeno? Is it connected to something else? We don't necessarily know, but it's just specifically one tree. Nothing else in that specific area even looks remotely like that, because again, it's purple and everything is green. So, you know, it certainly seems weird. But again, they're just fighting Garangolm, and you know, they continue explaining things when it comes to that. But they eventually kind of like slide out of that battle, and they make their way, I believe, is to fight Lunagaron. I believe is what was the other clip that we saw a little bit of. But perhaps that's not the case. Maybe I was looking at something else. But ultimately, they eventually just kind of like end the video there, or they tease Lunagaron, I think is what I read, and they end up cutting away from that as well. But that's about all the information that I want to go over. It's really exciting that we got a pretty decent chunk of gameplay there. That was pretty cool. Definitely they went over with the map. So that's definitely cool to see. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when your videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.